It's a Monday episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Summer League is finally over. Memphis closes it out with a big dub. Couple of two-way moves made, one player out, one player in. And we're going to look at the whole of Summer League, going all the way back to Salt Lake City, all through Las Vegas. What can we take away from the Memphis Grizzlies' Hot Grizz Summer? All that and more on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello. Once again, it is I, Joe Mullinax, so excited to be with you once more on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. I am so hopeful that you had a restful and relaxing weekend full of friends, family, and hopefully not too much Summer League basketball. That's a good way for relationships to end and for people to resent you. Hopefully you found the right balance of watching meaningless summer basketball and also spending time around those you love. I'm Joe Mullinax, once again, your host for this episode. No DeMichael Cole. DeMichael will be back this week. Very excited to have him back with us as we start the transition from immediate offseason, the NBA draft, free agency, summer league, into the dog days of the NBA offseason, late July into August. Episodes will not go away, but they'll start to be more 4 or 3 a week as opposed to the everyday. We're going to do our best to close out the month of July as everydayers, and then we'll pick up our 3 episode-ish a week run starting in August. That is our goal here at Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. As proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Google. Wherever you get a podcast, you can get Locked On Grizzlies. And we are so grateful to have you with us each and every time an episode drops. Hopefully you're an everydayer at this point. If you're not, welcome. Hopefully you become an everydayer after this Monday edition of the show. The Grizzlies pull out a win to close out their time in Las Vegas. It was an impressive victory. I don't want to diminish that. A 105-82 beating of the Los Angeles Clippers. But this was not a game that, I believe I posted on X. I watched it for Tyler Burton. I'm going to talk more about Tyler Burton here momentarily. And I probably should have said I was going to watch it for somebody else, which, again, talk about here in a second. I was watching it for Tyler Burton. That was my focus. But I also was focused on keeping my marriage afloat, right? Because in the summer, you're spending time with family, friends, trips. I'm a football coach, so my busy time of the year is about to get started. I don't want to say, hey, honey, I'm not going to spend as much time with you and our children this evening because I'm watching Tyler Burton play basketball in an exhibition game in Las Vegas in July. Not the best use of my time, right? But until that threshold is crossed, I was able to watch Tyler Burton go out and play basketball at a high level. We'll talk more about the two-way contract situation here in a minute. Probably not in the cards for Burton at this stage of the game, but if no other team picks him up on a two-way deal, which, to be frank, they should. If nobody else does, hopefully this guy stays in the Memphis Grizzlies system as a Memphis Hustle player that could potentially be called up in case Javon Small, who we'll talk more about here momentarily, gets a full roster call-up himself. Burton should be in the mix. 8 for 14 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, only 2 turnovers, a team high 20 points in 22 and almost 23 minutes played. A plus 41 for the night, a plus 41 for the game. Really impressive showing from Tyler Burton. And again, PJ Hall is coming in, Zion Poland, as DeMichael and I kind of insinuated and leaned towards, going out. We'll talk more about the ramifications of that later on. If you are assuming that Jemai Makeshak, and Javon Small, obviously Small has already signed his two-way contract. If you're assuming that those 2 contracts are spoken for, and now Hall is on the third, there's not really room for Tyler Burton, and that's a bummer because I like his game a lot. But obviously things can change between now and the end of next season, or even towards the trade deadline, or even the end of training camp, right? Who knows how the Grizzlies will turn over these next several months. But I was really impressed with Tyler Burton's game. It was an efficient game. It was a good, strong indicator of what he can do. I'm not saying he's going to be an NBA starter. I'm not saying this is someone that you completely move heaven and earth to keep in your franchise's pipeline. But I do think he did a lot for himself in Vegas, and he looks like an NBA player to me. He just does. Javon Small most certainly looks like an NBA player. He came off the bench in this contest, about 21 minutes played, 3 for 5 from beyond the arc, 5 for 9 from the field overall, got to the free throw line, 4 for 4. I like his 4 rebounds as an undersized guard. What I really liked is 9 assists to 1 turnover. And if you are an everydayer to Locked On Grizzlies, and you know you're probably going to hear about it later on in the show, right? When we talk about G.G. Jackson, I am a big fan of players that are able to facilitate offense, not just for themselves, but for others. Small, of course, is a point guard. You would hope that a point guard would be able to do such a thing. But the efficiency at which he did it, 9 assists to 1 turnover, that means he is not only making good reads and making good choices, he is doing so on a consistent basis. The consistency matters for me. Small looked like Ja Morant at times. He had some moves in his bag that maybe he had been watching some Ja tape. And he's certainly not the athlete that Ja is. If he was, he wouldn't have gone in the second round. He would have been the number 2 overall pick, just like Morant was. But of course, the Grizzlies have a tendency to find these diamonds in the rough in the second round. See Jaylen Wells literally just this past season. G.G. Jackson, before him, Vince Williams Jr. They have the capacity to find talent, develop it, and get it to be an eventual roster player. Cam Spencer. When you look at how Memphis is finding these late second round undrafted guys, going all the way back to John Conchar back in 2019, Small definitely seems like he is the most likely candidate to be the next man up in that long lineage at this point for this Grizzlies front office. He, again, comfortable in his own skin as a basketball player. He knows what he's capable of. He knows his strengths. He's an excellent on-ball defender, which obviously the Grizzlies need as many of those as they can possibly find. But the key for Small is his two-way play, how he can be a strong defensive force and also be a guy that you can count on offensively to, again, not just make shots for himself, not just hit open threes, but off the dribble, make good reads off of what defenses are doing to him. Are they collapsing? Find the open shooter on the perimeter. Are they giving you room to operate? Get to the basket. Find a way to hit something off the backboard as a layup, maybe a bit of a floater. As his game develops and evolves, you'll see more and more what he can do. He showed a lot of it at West Virginia. But I like how Small is clearly at this stage of his development, comfortable in his own basketball proverbial skin. And that matters because when you're going into that two-way situation and you're essentially going to be given a very finite amount of time, a literal finite amount of time to be with the big league club, showing Tuomas Isalo, the new head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies. He obviously saw it in Summer League as the Summer League head coach. We'll talk more about that too. Trying to drive home what you're capable of as a basketball player. You have to make those minutes matter. You got to maximize the moment. And I think Small is well prepared to do just that. I was really impressed with his game, and I was really impressed with his mentality, his apparent maturity. He is going to probably be a full roster NBA player this time next year. I don't even know that it would really be that bold of a prediction. Obviously, some pieces would have to be moved around on the Memphis side, but Small looks like he's going to keep that trend going. He is a baller, and he showed it in Summer League. And again, it's not about dominating Summer League. I've brought up Josh Selby far more than I probably should on a podcast in 2025. But I keep coming back to his MVP run in Summer League. Those things don't matter. And that'll be something we talk about later on in the show. The poor shooting, the poor scoring, that's not as significant because the great scoring and the great shooting is also not significant. What matters is your level of comfort in system and your ability to compete. And Small showed that in bunches for me in this Summer League. And so did Tyler Burton. But again, Burton looks to be the odd man out in terms of a two-way contract because as DeMichael Cole and I have been talking about, the tree fell. Zion Pullen was not able to pull himself out of his rut. He has lost his two-way contract with the Memphis Grizzlies. That now is in the hands of a big, as we kind of lean towards, if Memphis was going to go in that direction, PJ Hall. We're going to break down his game, talk about what it means for Memphis going into the dog days of the offseason, coming up next here on Locked On Grizzlies. Stick around. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier with Monarch Money? It can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. I got to tell you, I spend way too much money eating out, going with, various delivery apps. That really added up more than I expected. Monarch Money showed me how I can get serious about growing my wealth, not just saving money, but growing my wealth alongside my wife and our family budget. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. So the Memphis Grizzlies made some news over the weekend. They said goodbye, adieu, to Zion Pullen and DeMichael Cole and I. If you are an everydayer here to the Locked On Grizzlies podcast, you know that he and I both felt that Pullen was not long for this Grizzlies world. DeMichael tweeted about it or posted about it on X at DeMichael C., my wonderful co-host. Can't wait to see him again here soon. And he's exactly right. I was right there with him. We were in lockstep on this. It looked pretty clear that Meshack and Small, who we mentioned earlier, were going to be the other two-way deals. So something had to give. Did it make sense to have 2 point guards on those contracts? Memphis probably needed a big if they were going to go guard, wing, big. That's probably the most logical use of those two-way contracts in 2025. So exit Pullen, who did not do enough showing command of the offense. And again, it's not about making shots. I could care less about that in Summer League. Do you have command of the offense? Are you able to initiate sets? Where's the confidence? Do you believe in your ability to make the right choices? We didn't see that enough from Pullen in Summer League. Too many turnovers, not the right decision-making. Small is in a much better place than Pullen is at this point of their development. Wish Zion the best, but a very logical decision made by Memphis to move on from that two-way situation. And in his place is a big by the name of PJ Hall from the Grizzlies' official press release. The Memphis Grizzlies today was yesterday, Sunday, announced the team signed center PJ Hall to a two-way contract. Center is a very very stretchy use of the word center. We're going to talk more about that here in a second. Per team policy, terms of the deal were not disclosed, as always. In a relative move, the Grizzlies waived two-way guard Zion Pullen. We're going to focus on PJ moving forward. PJ is about 6'8", 240 pounds. He started all 20 of his Showcase Cup and regular season appearances with the Denver Nuggets NBA G League affiliate, the Grand Rapids Gold. Last season, he averaged 18.9 points, 11.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists, and 1.1 blocks in 32 minutes played. He increased his averages to 19 points, 12.5 rebounds, and 2.4 assists in 31.5 minutes played in 13 contests during the regular season. The 23-year-old also competed in 19 games as a reserve for the Nuggets, averaged 1.7 points, 1.2 rebounds, 3.5 minutes as a rookie after going unselected in the 2024 NBA draft. He's a native of South Carolina that was named to the 2023-2024 All-ACC first team following his senior year at Clemson. I've always liked Hall's game. I've liked Hall's game since he did indeed play at Clemson. The reason that I know a little bit about Hall is, again, I'm an ACC guy with my University of Virginia Cavaliers. I've watched him play a couple of times a year at least. Here's the thing about PJ Hall. He is a traditional big. He is not somebody that you're looking at and saying, go space the floor, right? This is somebody that can give you the double-double that so many of you in the comments are searching for, yearning for. I read the comments. I don't reply every time, but I'm checking out what you guys are talking about. One of the reasons you don't like Jaylen Wells is you don't think he rebounds enough. Some of you crave rebounding. Well, here's your boy, PJ Hall. This guy can rebound. You want 20 and 10 on the G League level? You want 20 and 10 at South Haven for the Memphis Hustle? Whoo, baby. He's going to give it to you. He's a competitor. He's aggressive. He outplays his size. And that's key. He outplays his size. He outplays his size. The Memphis Grizzlies have recently signed someone who's a little bit bigger than PJ Hall, Jock Landale. But the reason I bring up Landale in the same breath as Hall is they have similar games. Similar games. Landale, again, a little bit bigger, 6'11", 255. But Landale is a traditional big. And it shows the type that Tuomas Isalo and this new look Grizzlies coaching staff is going for. Hall is not a traditional big in terms of his actual size. He's more of a 4 if this was the year 1996. But we are not 30 years in the past. We are in 2025, and this guy is flawed in terms of how limited he is. He is not as malleable as you would like for a big to be that is his size. Can he play center? The Grizzlies clearly think he can. And I think he can too, depending on the matchup. But again, what are you talking about in terms of a center? Do you want this to be a person that can go out on the perimeter, pick and pop, set screens, be a floor spacer? No, unless you believe in floor spacing as a concept built around strong screen setting from a big. And PJ Hall can give you that in addition to traditional post games. Now, let's cycle back. Jock Landale replacing Jay Huff. PJ Hall coming in instead of an Armando Bacot or somebody like that on this two-way contract. Zach Edey is the king of this current situation when it comes to a traditional Memphis big. Jaren Jackson Jr. is obviously the best big on the Grizzlies roster, but he is not traditional. He is a perimeter-based big who does things in the post and in isolation, but it's starting out as a player that is operating around the three-point line. Zach Edey operates on the block when he's most effective. At least he did when he was in college. And he operates best as an NBA player to this point as that screener, creating room for players like Scottie Pippen Jr., Ja Morant, obviously, soon to be Ty Jerome, to operate. PJ Hall can do that. He can be that sturdy screen setter. He can be that aggressor out in space, creating room for the actual skilled, for lack of a better term, basketball players to operate, just like Landale can do. So no disrespect to PJ Hall, he is the literal worst player on the Grizzlies roster at this point. You have 15 full-time roster spotted players, then you have the 3 two-way guys. Hall is 18 out of 18. But that is not to say that he does not have value, because you have to remember, my wonderful listener, my wonderful viewer, I love you so much for being here with me on this Monday. Zach Edey is recovering from an ankle surgery. Jaren Jackson Jr., turf toe injury. You're going to have at least a week or two, if not more, where you are going to need a break glass in case of emergency big. If Brandon Clark gets into foul trouble, Santi Aldama is in foul trouble, heaven forbid another injury occurs. There's PJ Hall. Don't be surprised if you see him eat a lot of those early season minutes and reps in that first month of the campaign. And don't be surprised if the Grizzlies perhaps go in a different direction with that two-way once both Jaren and Edey are back. Because as strong as Hall has been in the G League, they are constantly looking for the next Jay Huff, constantly looking for the next Cam Spencer, guys that they can have become full-time rostered players that add value to the organization, whether it is at like Cam Spencer, getting fully guaranteed money, a third year added after a strong Summer League showing. Summer League matters a lot to him. We'll talk more about that. Whether it's somebody like that or whether it's a Jay Huff, building up his value to the point that when a coaching change happens and Jay Huff is not that traditional big, and he's not Jaren Jackson Jr., obviously, you make a trade, you get future value from some second-round picks. They're looking for that. I don't think PJ Hall is that. Is it possible I'm wrong? Of course. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But I see PJ Hall as a guy that you say, okay, I know he can play 10 minutes in an NBA game and not kill me. I know he can set screens. I know he can rebound. I know he can score a little bit. He can be a positive asset while we are recovering our depth in the front court. And Zion Pullen gave them the opening Small having the summer league that he did, and obviously was part of their plans anyway. 2 + 2 = 4 sometimes. And I think Hall is going to be somebody that almost certainly is going to try to earn a full-time spot in Memphis. But you got to remember, especially on these two-way contracts, it's not just about who they're playing for right now. It's about who they want to play for. They want that full-time spot. That might be somewhere else in the NBA, but he can build up tape and opportunity with the Grizzlies organization. Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on X at Joe Mullinax. How are you feeling about PJ Hall? I like the signing. I think it's smart, but I do think it's important to every situation is different, right? Every circumstance unique when it comes to how these two ways are utilized by the Grizzlies and any NBA team. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to tie a little bow on our summer league experience, some takeaways involving the biggest players on the roster, the ones that obviously are going to be full-time roster members, the Cam Spencers, the Gigi Jacksons, Jaylen Wells of the world. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Grizzlies. Stick around. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, closing out this Monday edition of the podcast. So happy to have you with me. It is I, Joe Mullinax, your host for this show. Again, DeMichael Cole will be back with us soon. I promise. He's been in and out, lots of stuff going on for him. He's fine. Everything's cool. But DeMichael should be back this week. And again, friendly reminder, we're going to do our best to close out the month of July. Each and every time an episode drops, that would be every day. But once we hit August, you know, the dog days of the NBA, we don't want to insult your intelligence. We'll probably go to 3 or 4 episodes a week. There's going to be limited things compared to having actual basketball games to discuss. Just keeping you in the loop, right? Because we care about you. We want you to know what's going on here at Locked On Grizzlies. But for the next couple of weeks, you should see DeMichael and or myself each and every day heading into the end of the month. Summer League takeaways. First and foremost, the Jaylen Wells stuff. And I've already kind of talked about this. I'm not going to go too far down this rabbit hole again. I think it's ridiculous to judge Jaylen Wells on anything involving raw numbers from this summer league. Okay? Because Jaylen Wells is not Tyler Burton. He's not. If you're being honest with yourself, you would have no idea who Tyler Burton was until this summer league. Almost all of you, right? And that's okay. I'm not expecting you to be an expert in Tyler Burton. But the point I'm trying to make is that Jaylen Wells is a starter for the Memphis Grizzlies. You've seen it. You've experienced it. He was named an all-rookie first-team player in that spot. He beat out Marcus Smart, who just got bought out by the Washington Wizards and is signing with the Los Angeles Lakers. I wish Marcus Smart well. I like Marcus Smart. But Jaylen Wells beat him out last year. And Tumas Isolo didn't make it seem like he thought it was that bad of a choice. He was a part of the coaching staff that helped make that decision. Taylor Jenkins makes the final call. But Jaylen Wells was viewed as better than Marcus Smart. And because of that reality, you have a young player who can shoot the three, who defends at a high level, that is going to look a heck of a lot different alongside the actual starters in the Memphis Grizzlies organization. So yeah, would it have been nice to have seen Jaylen Wells dominate Summer League? Yeah. But again, I've seen Josh Selby dominate Summer League. How did that work out? I've seen Jordan Adams dominate Summer League. To be frank, I've seen Gigi Jackson dominate Summer League. We're going to talk more about here in a minute. I need to see players that are able to excel in their roles and physically do the things that they are going to be asked to do when the winning actually matters. Summer League championships don't matter. It makes fan bases feel good. Again, I'm not going to pretend like it wasn't fun to watch a Summer League championship game last year against the Heat, because it was fun. But that's not why the Summer League exists. It exists for reps, for a variety of reasons, for a variety of different players. And Jaylen Wells had nothing to prove going into the event. So the fact that he chose to compete confirmed the mentality that we had hoped he had all along. The guy loves the game of basketball. He's going to work on his game in this offseason. I have no doubt that he is going to come back and be a great role player for this Grizzlies starting group and in the Memphis rotation moving forward. Shout out to Jaylen Wells. And shout out to Cam Spencer. I mentioned him earlier in the show. You want to talk about using Summer League the right way. Here's a guy who signed a contract, partially guaranteed, or the third year was a team option, something along those lines. The first version of the deal that was agreed upon, I should stress that, agreed upon. And then before it was officially signed, Memphis altered the contract to give him a third guaranteed year. They clearly saw enough out of Cam Spencer to want to keep him around. And DeMichael and I have talked about Cam Spencer for the last year or so. There is your Luke Kennard replacement. Not that Luke Kennard is not a good basketball player. There's a reason he keeps getting these contracts, because Luke Kennard can shoot the cover off the basketball, and that is valuable. Cam Spencer can do that too, but what is different from Cam Spencer, who's not quite the shooter that Luke Kennard is, at least not yet, the difference between Spencer and Kennard is that Spencer has a handle that he's able to get his own open shot and help facilitate offense a little bit better than Luke. And he's most certainly a better defender than Luke Kennard, and we have to keep that perspective. The defensive end is going to matter. That is the space where the Grizzlies have to improve the most going into the next season. The offense, not necessarily fixed, because obviously Jenkins and Adam LaRoche, the guys that were most responsible for the offensive changes, they're gone. But the offense was improved last year. It was the defense that fell off a cliff. So you need Jaylen Wells and you need Cam Spencer. The fact that they can shoot the ball obviously is a major plus. And Spencer is going to have a chance to be that end of bench, back end of rotation contributor. It's up to him to show that he is capable of defending other teams' best reserve scorers. He could eat into John Konchar's minutes easily because he has a better handle than Konchar. The rebounding end, Spencer is enough of a competitor and a force of nature that I think that he could commit to being a better rebounding guard. Not as good as Konchar. We got to give Johnny Basketball a little bit of credit. But I do think that the ceiling is higher for Spencer at this stage of the game. So that's something to watch as the preseason gets closer. And then last but not least, there's G.G. Jackson. And everybody says, or not everybody, some people say that I'm a G.G. Jackson hater, and that is not true. Friendly reminder, I'm the guy that wanted G.G. Jackson to be the sixth man bucket getter off the bench this time last year. That was my vision for G.G. Jackson. G.G. has to be better defensively. That is first and foremost. Those of you that clamor and say he doesn't need to be a facilitator, to an extent, I agree with you. He doesn't need to be a point guard. That's not his game offensively. But what he has to be is not one of the worst defensive players in the NBA, which is what he was this past season. And I didn't see enough in Summer League to make me think he was progressing enough to be a full-time rotation piece. Doesn't mean you trade him. He's one of the younger players in the NBA still going into his third season. Doesn't mean that you move on from him. I think with this restructuring of the team, it makes even more sense to hold on to GG and let him develop. Because if Memphis is going to take a bit of a step back to take bigger steps forward the next couple of years, hopefully, you're going to need a better G.G. Jackson 2 years from now. So let him grow. Let him learn. I'm cool with that, but he has to see defensive rotations. His size is too impressive, 6'9", 225 or so. He should be the prototype combo forward that can defend on the perimeter. I've talked about him playing small ball 5. But he has to be able to see rotations. He has to be able to communicate. He has to be able to do the things on that end of the court that connect to the potential. And that's the key word with Gigi that I'm sure DeMichael and I are going to talk a ton about over the summer that remains. Potential. That has to continue to become realized ability as time goes on. Because there will be a time where it does matter. And there will be a time where it will be time to maximize value on him, whether it's an extension, whether it's a trade. We're not there yet. I love Gigi, and I love his game, especially as a scorer. But you can't be such a compromised player in those other spaces. You can't be so predictable offensively that teams know that you're not going to pass, and you can't be such a sieve on the defensive end that teams know they can attack you or somebody that is connected to you in a scheme because you're not going to be able to get there and help. Those three guys obviously matter the most because they're the ones that are full-time roster pieces that also played the most in Summer League that were of that mindset. A mixed bag overall, more good than bad. I'm still high on Gigi, very high on Cam Spencer. I'm still very high on Gigi. Gigi is the most talented, you could argue, of all three. But it's about connecting that talent to actual execution. Jaylen Wells is there. Cam Spencer is closer. I think Gigi will keep getting closer as time goes on, and he gets reps, much-needed reps. Thank you so much for being with me on this installment of Locked On Grizzlies. It is much appreciated. And thank you for making Locked On Grizzlies your first listen today. For your second listen, find the Locked On NBA podcast where there is no offseason. Doug, Matt, and Hayes keep you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything that you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On tomorrow's episode, you'll notice we didn't talk about Tuomas Isalo very much. We mentioned him here and there, but he obviously is a huge part of the Summer League puzzle. Hopefully, DeMichael is back with us, and we can kind of take a look at the Isalo experience through, 6 or 7 Summer League games? Because, again, the last Summer League game, all the GGs and Cam Spencer's, Jaylen Wells, those guys didn't play. So through 5 or 6 games, what can we tell of the Tuomas Isalo experience? We'll talk about that and more on our next episode. Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Google, literally anywhere you get a podcast, you can find Locked On Grizzlies. Make sure you're becoming an everydayer. If you're not already one, thank you so much to everybody that already is. If you're not, become one and hang out with myself and or DeMichael Cole each and every time that an episode drops. We will be back tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow. I believe DeMichael will be as well. Have a wonderful rest of your Monday. We will catch you next time here on Locked On Grizzlies. See ya.